Welcome to the debate. When engineers build a massive suspension bridge, they calculate exactly how much tension the steel cables can hold before the whole thing just snaps.
Right. I mean, they have to.
Exactly. But when we build a bridge of professional access, the connections that actually get us promoted, respected, and valued, we often ignore that tension entirely.
Yeah, until the bridge collapses right under our feet.
Yeah. So today we are analyzing an ancient biblical framework that outlines 7 specific mistakes that destroy this bridge, specifically disrespect, disagreement, divisiveness, disappointment, disinterest, disruption, and deception.
And the core question we are wrestling with today is whether these 7 principles are actually timeless, necessary laws for career success. Or, if they demand a rigid conformity that stifles the exact kind of productive discourse modern executive teams really need.
Right. So I will be arguing, kind of from a CEO perspective, that these ancient texts hit on a profound psychological truth that professional access relies entirely on structural trust and honoring authority.
And I will counter, maybe wearing my human resources hat for a minute, that by lumping disagreement and disruption in the exact same bucket as outright deception, this framework creates an incredibly dangerous echo chamber, one that penalizes, healthy intellectual friction.
Well, think about how career access works fundamentally. It is a privilege granted through relational harmony.
Sure.
If we look at the text, like the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, where a disengaged, unprofitable servant is ultimately cast out, it is showing us the actual mechanism of disinterest.
Yeah, the lack of engagement.
Right. Disinterest fundamentally breaks the trust required for promotion. I mean, if leadership cannot trust your basic engagement, the bridge is gone before you even step on it.
I completely agree that deception and a basic lack of interest will absolutely kill your career. But where this text loses me is its stance on ideological alignment.
How so?
Well, it quotes Amos 3:3, asking, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" And it uses that to paint all disagreement as universally destructive.
But is it?
No, exactly. If you demand total uniformity to grant someone access or a promotion, you are just enforcing subservience. You severely limit a team's true potential.
I hear that, but let us look at what the text considers the absolute most damaging barrier, which is disrespect. It goes so far as to use incredibly severe metaphors to prove the point.
The bear story, right?
Yes, the story in 2 Kings 2 where a prophet is openly mocked by a crowd and the mockers are immediately mauled by bears.
It is a bit extreme.
Obviously, it is an extreme ancient narrative. But what is the underlying psychological mechanism there? Disrespect breeds contempt, and contempt blinds a leader to your true value.
Right.
In a modern executive team, you simply cannot grant access to someone who fundamentally undermines the structural authority of the group.
I hear the bear story, but isn't that definition of disrespect way too broad?
In what way?
The problem is that ancient frameworks often conflate genuine malice with a simple challenge to the status quo. If a leader demands absolute honor in that ancient, unquestioning sense, they insulate themselves from desperately needed critique.
But there is a line between critique and sowing discord.
Sure, but if I tell you our core strategy is failing, am I being disrespectful or am I trying to save the company?
That is where divisiveness comes in as structural rot. The text in Proverbs explicitly warns against the one who sows discord.
Right.
If we think about that suspension bridge again, discord rusts the cables. If your executive team members are constantly repelling each other, the trust network shatters. You cannot have a stable organization built on constant internal friction.
But see, I think avoiding all friction creates incredible fragility. It is the opposite of that move fast and break things Silicon Valley style. The texts condemn variance and strife. But when you ban variance, you ban out-of-the-box thinking.
I see what you mean.
If everyone is terrified of being labeled divisive, they stop pointing out fatal flaws. Look at Acts 15. In these same texts, there is a sharp contention between 2 early leaders, Paul and Barnabas.
Right? They split up.
Exactly. They fundamentally disagreed. They parted ways, and it actually led to double the growth and expansion. Friction isn't always rot. Sometimes it is the very traction you need to solve complex problems.
That tension right there really illuminates the core of our divide, because I still maintain that these ancient texts correctly identify structural trust, which requires a fundamental absence of discord, as the absolute bedrock of professional access, especially when senior leaders are mentoring staff.
And while we definitely converge on the reality that outright deception and lukewarm disinterest universally erode that trust, I remain convinced that an organization's growth actually requires the very disruption these texts warn us against.
These ancient principles about human relationships really reveal a profound complexity in how we manage access in our professional lives today.
They really do. There is so much more to unpack there.
It leaves us with a critical question. When you build your own bridges of professional access, are you engineering them to withstand the productive tension of disagreement? Or will that tension cause the cables to finally snap?